Welcome, everybody, to another broadcast for Debruary 2022, How to Win at Life. That's our theme for the entire month. Today's guest will be discussing the issue of toxic relationships and how to let go of them. Dr. Marni Hill Foderaro is an award-winning author, speaker, and educator. She completed her doctorate and postdoctorate studies at Harvard University and served 12 years as a university adjunct professor. Even with her amazing track record, her life was changed forever, she notes, after surviving family violence, narcissistic abuse, and parental alienation, experiencing what she calls spiritually transformative encounters. Marni's honesty, integrity, equality, and spirituality are her key areas of focus at this point, and she's here to discuss her 4-book series, True Deceit, False Love. It's the title, and she'll share more information about the 4 books with you as we go along in our discussion. Our goal tonight is to share the experiences that she and other women have had and give you the information that you need to recognize and avoid toxic relationships as early as possible. So join me in welcoming Dr. Marni to the show.
Oh, hey, Deb. Thanks for having me here. Yeah.
Oh, I just like your energy, just all spunky and just excited.
Yeah. I'm a happy person.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I try to be. So let's talk about I kind of lay a little bit of foundational work here. What is the difference between a healthy relationship and a toxic relationship? How are those defined?
Well, I'm sure they're defined in many different ways by many different people. In my own personal experience, a healthy relationship is when you're with someone who is honest, who is compassionate, who looks out for your best interests as well, and wants the best for you to be the best person that you can be. A toxic relationship, there's often malevolent motives behind it. They could be using you for your money, for your appearance, for just narcissistic supply in general. So, giving the admiration and attention that some people need. And some people take it to another level and actually abuse their targets, and it's not very easy to realize that you're being abused when you're in the midst of it. So
I was going to ask you about that because I looked at your preface and I took a quote from there. It says, when you realize that you have been the target of domestic violence, narcissistic abuse, and or parental alienation at the hands of someone you cared for and trusted with unconditional love, in some cases unknowingly enduring this intimate partner terrorism for decades, your entire world is turned upside down. That was like, oh, boy. So why do you think women, what's going on with us that we don't recognize when these things are happening and that they're hurting us?
Well, and I would like to say that it is not just women. This any kind of abuse or parental alienation or family trauma can happen to any gender person. It can happen to men and women. It can happen to parents, to the children, of course, to grandparents. You can even be in a toxic situation in your work and stay with that situation because you need that job, or or you just kind of keep thinking it's going to get better. So time can go by very easily when you don't really realize it. We're busy people. We're busy in our jobs, raising our families, pursuing advanced degrees, or our interests, our hobbies, that kind of thing. We can get very, very busy in our lives, and we don't always look inward to see, are we really in a healthy situation with our relationships? And also abusers are very calculated, and they manipulate people. They actually probably had you figured out from the beginning that because you're loving and accepting and overgiving, and you just ignore things. You can ignore a lot of red flags that, hey, you're a good source of supply for this person, and they'll stick with you a long time. And where in the meantime, they could be doing very unethical, immoral things, and certainly not honoring, the relationship. But abusers are very skilled at gaslighting people. And so it doesn't even matter if you're an intelligent, critical thinker. You could, over time, start to realize or feel that you really are confused, or your memory is not as good as it used to be, or you're not as capable as you thought you were, or at one time in your life you might have been very confident, but slowly the abuser can erode that confidence. And they isolate you. That's part of it too. They will isolate you from your support system, your friends and family, and question your motives. They'll even, with gaslighting, things that you're interested in or people that you're friends with, they'll put them down and those things down to make you kind of feel like, hey, your judgment isn't as good as it should be. So that goes on. And then, in my case, I was married for 27 years before my light bulb went on. And that's not to say that I didn't have red flags along the way. I surely did. But, I wanted to think the best of people. I didn't realize until after I filed for divorce, so many things were different than what I had thought, like our house being paid off or money in the bank. I always handed over my paychecks and that type of thing. No. It was all very different than what I had imagined. And so, and abusers, once you leave them, they ramp up their abuse. They'll stalk you and harass you. I'm continued to be stalked and harassed, even though I filed for divorce in 2013. I moved all the way from the Chicago suburbs to the Caribbean, and where I've been for the last 3 years, just to physically get away from the abuser as well. But I also am living out my retirement in a beautiful environment, and I'm very happy here. But what ends up happening, what I suggest people to do if they could think that they might be in a toxic relationship somehow, and like I said, it's not gender specific, it's to anyone. You have to kind of go back and reflect on your own life and your own childhood, trauma or upbringing. You need to kind of do some inner work to see, why was I a target? Why do bad things happen to good people? To just try to figure that out. And in doing so, you might painfully uncover that you were a victim yourself of intergenerational family trauma. So then I went back and I looked at my own parents and their relationship and realized, that there was abuse growing up. And very similar to what I'm experiencing, or what I have experienced here, with the parental alienation and the legal harassment and the put downs and the, stealing of assets and money and stuff like that, So it was really painful, to be 60 years old now, and really putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And realizing that, especially my mom, she didn't have the supports. There weren't podcasts. There wasn't a lot of research, There
was no Google.
There wasn't, right? You couldn't search out things and get that kind of support. So she really struggled. And so I am, kind of devoting my next writing project to honoring her memory and kind of letting my mom know, even though she's transitioned in spirit now, to just let her know I got it, and I'm going to stop the intergenerational abuse here and now. And there's no need for it. And, we stay in toxic situations with friends and family because it's familiar. It's because it's something we've always done for years and years and years. We kind of know how to navigate and keep things kind of going along. But at some point, you have to look at yourself and say, is this really how I want to live?
One thing I want to ask you about that too is, excuse me, when women are in these situations, how are they impacted? What kind of things have you noticed that, change them or what happens to the woman who's treated like this?
Okay, well, all sorts of things. I mean, first of all, when you're dealing with an abuser, you lose everything. So even if you had, like in my case, I was married for 27 years, handing over my paycheck every month, thinking that there would be, the house would be paid off, or there'd be money for this or that. I even put money aside for our children for college funds, just to find out that over many years that was slowly depleted until there was no record that our children had $40,000 in a bank account. Although I did hire a forensic accountant at one point, just for my own benefit, to find out what in the heck was going on, and realize that, I had been kind of coerced to sign a home equity line of credit, even though I didn't even think we really needed it, but for hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's just bizarre, when our house was almost paid off. But, my ex had other plans with the money, but he could actually every week write a check to himself, $1,000 here, 5,000 here, 500 here, whatever. I was able to uncover all of that. And that went on for years. So realize that when you do leave an abuser, you will lose, most everyone loses everything: their home, their money, their assets, that type of thing. So if you could plan a little bit for your escape, if you could, not everyone can, and not everyone does. I really thought, oh, well, my ex will be reasonable about this. He won't lie on documents and juggle money around or whatever. Oh, I was wrong. So, realize that, if you can put some money away, or just, take care of some things before you leave, that would be ideal. But you lose everything. The abusers, by the time you figure it out and you leave, the abuser has already done a smear campaign on the whole neighborhood, on your friends, and on your family. So when you need your support system the most, you don't have it. So one thing I would say is no contact with your abuser is very important, but also think about no contact with anyone that you have a joint relationship with the abuser, because chances are they are, whether they know it or not, are loyal to the abuser, because they've already spent a lot of time smearing your name with outlandish lies, things that are so unbelievable, but at the same time, half-truths. So things that, it could seem like that could happen, but, we don't know, but this is all done behind your back. So realize that you're on your own when this happens, and you can only get so much help. I mean, you definitely, if your safety is a concern, you need to get somewhere safe, whether it's a shelter or whether it's, a friend and family that you feel you could be safe with. I personally don't think you could ever be safe with an abuser. So I think that they're so obsessed with you, even long after you're gone. They track you and they watch your every move, because even if they've moved on and you've moved on, that you're still their obsession. They still want to know what's going on, to see if they can control you in any way. And lots of times what they'll do later on is they'll throw legal suits against you all the time, so that you're forced to respond. You can block these people. You can, you don't have to accept packages or mail or anything like that. But, when you are hit with a lawsuit or a petition, even if it's based on false information, and they do that a lot, they just make up stuff because they want to keep you engaged. So I would say be very careful, because you'll find yourself isolated with nothing. And you need to be a very strong person to get your affairs in order and to move forward. And what's devastating for a lot of moms and dads that find themselves in domestic violence situations is they will, when they can't control you, because you're onto them, what's going on. They will control how other people think about you, and that includes your children. So I was very fortunate, even though I am alienated from my 2 adult children. Okay. Ages 30 and 27, almost 27. Even though I'm alienated from these two beautiful children that I raised into their 20s and beyond, you know, they will align these kids with them. The abuser will align the kids with them. They'll buy them off with money, or they'll put fear into them. They'll again do the smear campaign, that type of thing. So realize that the abusers will go cutthroat for anything, and your children are who we value the most in the whole world. And we never would think our bond would be severed, especially after 20 years plus, but it can be. It can
That
be.
is so weird. Wouldn't they be? It just seems like as adults they would be able to think a little more clear for themselves and make those kind of
Right.
determinations.
Well, that's what a lot of people think. And a lot of very well-meaning people say to you, oh, they'll come back to you. They'll figure it out, or they're smart enough to know, or maybe you did something, because why would they estrange from a parent if you were such a good parent? But, you know, the reality is they can get young adults, and just think about, they're very much like a cult programmer. So think about people, adults that get caught up into a cult of some kind, and they're reasonable, you know, critical thinking people, but they believe in this person and whatever their mission is, and they can cut off all family. They can go to their bank and take all the money out and give it to this cult leader. And, you know, so they are programmed. So it really does happen. I would think the same thing too. I would think, oh my gosh, you know, I had a beautiful relationship for all these years, you know, and you know, my whole mission is to encourage independence for them, and do what you want, and let me celebrate you and what your interests are. Where a lot of times the abusers don't look at their kids like that. They look at them as an extension of themselves. They want them to do this particular job and hang around these kind of people and move to this area. And, you know, they want this control. I mean, they even go so far as to put tracking devices, you know, all over you. You know, the kids think, oh, great, I'm getting like a new electronic game program or something for my car. But really, the abusers are tracking their every move.
Oh my God.
It's a control thing. It's a power and control thing. But you know what? Once you figure it out, and my writing and my speaking is really trying to bring awareness so that people can have some tools and options to realize they deserve better, and that
That's what I wanted to ask you about.
You can leave and have a better life.
When you said that no two abusers are alike, it's each person's behavior and personality falls on a spectrum.
Right.
But in general, they go through great pain to discredit and do whatever they can to destroy you.
Yeah, they have a false mask. In fact, when you see the cover, here's the cover of the first book of True Deceit. All my covers have an abuser with a mask over their face and a mask falling down. And you know, and there are many terms in that one book. You know, 15,555 terms are in that first book of True Deceit, False Love. But their mask lots of times slip. It's not like you need to expose these evildoers. They expose themselves. They tell on themselves. They project how they will accuse you of lying, cheating, and stealing. When that's the last.
Of those.
Well, that's the last thing you
flags that you say that just about all abusers show early on. What should women be looking for?
Well, definitely the isolation. You know, if they start putting down other people and encouraging you just to stay right with them, and they want to know where you're going, when you're going, why are you going? You know, they want that kind of control, but it can be done so subtly that you think it's done under the cloak of care or concern. Mm-hmm. Oh, I care about your safety. I just, I just want to know these things because I care about your safety, when really they might have their girlfriend coming over to your house and they want to make sure you're gone and not coming back, you know, so you don't interfere with what he's trying to do. Another thing is you start to you question yourself. So you're being gaslit, like I had said before. You really question, you're confused, like, oh, really? Did I see that? Or you heard something, but then they'll even flat out tell you, no, you didn't hear that. I'm like, yeah, no, I did. I heard that with my own ears. I saw it with my own eyes. Well, then you're seeing it wrong, or you're hearing it wrong. I mean, abusers feel superior. They basically believe anyone, it doesn't matter whether it's law enforcement, the courts, or whether it's, someone at a store that might have more knowledge than them. They believe they are most knowledgeable, that they know more than most people. And so that can be kind of a red flag too, where they, but they're very controlling. They want you to wear certain clothes, or they want you to drive a certain car, or they want you to, get involved in something, but don't get involved in that. So things to be on the lookout for are controlling kinds of behaviors. And sometimes it's even glaring things, where they say they're at work, but they're not at work. They say they have to go on a business trip. They're not on a business trip. Or if they are on a business trip, it's certainly not with you and the family. It's with someone else. So much gets revealed, unfortunately, after we leave these abusers. So much gets revealed. In fact, I was left with our family computer. I thought because just because that's to help our kids out, if I need to do resumes for them or whatever. I didn't realize it was really to kind of spy on me, but I ended up, looking through the computer and found some really unethical, bad things. And that was kind of shocking. And that's right there in our house. And then also just to, my abuser actually embedded his various girlfriends' names and birth dates and addresses and phone numbers within his various passwords. He was, it's just to take the time to do all that secretive stuff is just not how I would want to spend my time. And, and because we are not criminals or bad people, we don't really think like a bad person. But at some point you kind of need to open your eyes and say, well, what would the bad guy do here? And even though it's very uncomfortable to put ourselves in those shoes, just to kind of realize, wow, they really go to a lot of extremes.
That is a lot of time and energy you spent on stupid stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just be blunt here. That's just stupid.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about your book some more. True Deceit, False Love.
Yeah.
Now, you guys, in case you missed this, let me fit True Deceit, False Love. 15,555 terms and phrases on domestic violence, narcissistic abuse, and parental alienation. That is the title of the book. And like I said, I was flipping through. It was just unbelievable. Terms, some phrases that I've never heard of. So I wanted to ask you, with just a couple of them. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but can you explain a couple of these, because I was like, I wonder what that means. Okay, acquired situational narcissism.
Well, and I went through with a lot of research. This took about 4 years of research of various.
I'm surprised it only took 4 years.
Yeah, that they throw around a lot of these terms. But when you acquire the narcissism, it means that you might not always have been that way, but for a particular situation, you are going to kind of change your personality to portray a certain way. Oh. But the reason why, now in this book, with all these terms, I don't put definitions in them because there are so many different takes on the various terms. And the book would be ginormous if I put in all these, if I made it kind of like a dictionary or a glossary. But yeah, there are many terms and there are many different tenses of the terms. In fact, the gentleman Dr. Sam Vaknin, who wrote my foreword, he actually coined a lot of these terms.
Oh, did
And
he? Okay.
yeah, and made them as part of the, the literature, the research on narcissism. And he's a psychology professor, very well known for anyone that, dabbles in the YouTube abuse community. You can kind of see who some of the players are, the big influencers. And I have many of them have endorsed, all 4 of my books. So,
Well, I was just so intrigued. I thought it was really great. I wanted to ask you too, since this is your field of expertise, do you think that narcissism has become more prevalent, or are we just better at recognizing it? Because when I was growing up, I'm telling you, I just don't remember people acting like this. Maybe I was naive or blind or something. I don't know. But it just seems like every the women that write to my advice column and come on the channel, story after story after story. It doesn't even have to be guys they're really involved with, just people online or people that they work with, the people in the neighborhood. It's just overwhelming. And I was just trying to see what your take was on that.
Well, and I wouldn't say that I'm an expert in this, but I will say I'm experienced in that.
Okay.
So let's clarify that. Because I was a high school teacher for 35 years. So I didn't study psychology any more than I needed to get my various degrees. But I am definitely experienced in this. So I can talk from a survivor's point of view. I actually believe it's both. So I think that, yeah, like you, when I was younger, I didn't really look at people as narcissists, and I kind of assumed all people were good. But I think the world has changed a lot, and I think some of it has to do with social media. I'm not on social media just because I wanted to spend more time writing, because that's where my passion is writing. But I think when people are on social media, they can come across as experts in this, or they can come across as just, all knowing, or all, all positive, or whatever, they can kind of create the kind of image that they want to have, when maybe in reality, they may not, be that way. So I think that it's a combination. I think that, the narcissism has always been there. But I just don't think we noticed it as much. And I think now we're talking about it a little bit more. We're seeing it a little bit more. And so people are acknowledging it. So I think it's a combination.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, can you explain what parental alienation is? That's a term that I've seen a lot, and I know people have heard it, but I'd like you to explain what it means and how it is applied.
Sure. And again, there's many definitions for this. And I was fortunate in the first book here of True Deceit, False Love, Dr. Jennifer Harmon endorsed my book, and she is an expert researcher with parental alienation out of Colorado. And I have other supporters that are very well versed in parental alienation. It's a very unfortunate family dynamic, and it happens usually when there's a separation or a divorce, where one parent is more the abuser, the other parent is the victim, and they do what they can to get the children to align with them, and basically get them to cut off that other parent completely, like no contact, completely. And when they are doing that, they also are able to brainwash. It's kind of like a brainwashing situation, but they're able to brainwash and kind of control that the children, whether they're young or adult, have nothing to do with that entire side of the family.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so it's not so when these children, and luckily, like I was saying, my kids were adults and I didn't have to deal with custody issues. That doesn't mean my legal traumas were easy to deal with. I mean, we're talking close to $100,000 and 14 lawyers. I mean, it was just for a divorce with no minor children. But when you're dealing with an abuser, it's never ending. But But anyway, parental alienation is where a child cuts off all communication with either the dad or the mom because that parent, that the other parent, which is called the favored parent, or the alienator, they have set up a narrative. And they'll do a lot of gaslighting to the kids and smearing of the other parent. In fact, they don't even have to outwardly say anything negative about the parent, because some of these young kids say, hey, my dad would never say anything bad about my mom. I just don't like my mom because she was a terrible, terrible mom. And then someone might say, well, when was the last time you saw your mom? Well, I was 3 years old, but I remember everything. Well, you know that they can't remember everything. They're kids. But that parent has set up false memories and, scenarios with half-truths. Whatever it is, they're very, very successful in getting kids against a certain parent. There are loving, wonderful parents that have had the courts side with the abuser, even though they have evidence to prove otherwise, and their children are ripped away from them, where they don't get any custody or any visitation or anything like that. I'm so just blessed and thankful that I didn't have to deal with that, because now that I know the type of abuser I'm dealing with, he would have he would have wanted me in jail. He wants his false mask, his outward persona to the public to appear a certain way. And they'll do anything and everything to defend that image.
That is just wild.
Yeah.
I just don't understand that kind of energy. Okay, well, let's talk about.
And it's good that you don't understand that energy. And, I didn't understand that energy either. This isn't any kind of life that I had ever wanted for myself. Now, luckily, I'm taking control of it and I'm understanding it. I think research is very important. Knowledge is power to help bring about change. I am getting to the point where luckily I've got so many wonderful things going for me, and I'm living in the Caribbean. I have a beautiful life, some wonderful people that I surround myself with. And so, getting rid of the toxic and negative people in your life, which could be family members, it could be the ex-spouse, it could be even a best friend that, you found out was betraying you, or, things weren't like what you thought. Like I see your eyes. Like I've
had that happen.
Yeah, it's shocking. It's shocking when you kind of think a friend has your back when really they don't. But all that kind of is part of our journey, I believe. And so, I guess I've come to realize that you have to go through these dark, challenging times to really fully appreciate the light and the good times. And, you can get to a point in your life would say, listen, I no longer want to tolerate that. I just don't need to tolerate that. And I want to, now that I've released some of these negative people and situations from my life, I have room now to open up for more, positive relationships with people who are honest, which is very important to me, and have integrity. And so now life is pretty good, but it's certainly not the life I had planned when I set out on my American dream. But it is what it is, and with my adult children, at some point, I hope their light bulbs go on and they know the truth, and realize that their mom loves them to the moon and back, and, that it was really kind of a plan set up. I do believe kids need to have both parents, though, but they do need to know who they're dealing with,
Yeah. Well, let's add, because, you kind of answered, God, I'm tongue-tied, answered what I was going to ask you next about, how you came to peace and what kinds of things, helped you get there. But it sounds like you pretty much already answered that question.
And, moving to a new location, starting fresh is very new. Not everyone can or wants to move thousands of miles away from where they're at. Sometimes people have to. I chose to, but I think also taking care of yourself, taking care of your nutrition, your health, your exercise, your sleep, your mindfulness, your meditation practices. I try to use a multi-sensory approach to all sorts of things, to just get me feeling grounded. And I'm surrounded by nature where I live. So it's pretty cool that I can just kind of walk outside my door and I'm, right at the ocean, or I'm in the rainforest and I'm seeing all sorts of beautiful things that just, give me the reassurance that the world is a beautiful place.
Oh, that sounds so lovely. Well, tell me this one thing here. If you could look back at your life, say you were about 16,
Yeah.
what would you tell yourself from all that you've gone through and all that you've experienced?
Oh gosh. And I
What
don't
would
even
you
know
tell
if my
young Marni?
16-year-old self would listen to myself. I don't know if I would listen, but I would say, stay true to your values of goodness, honesty, love, compassion, forgiveness. Stay true to those values, but be a little bit more discerning about the people you come into contact, and start paying attention to red flags. And, get yourself out of some situations when something doesn't feel right. Like, I even had those feelings before I even married my abuser. If something just doesn't feel right, and you're questioning yourself about, should I continue with this? Follow your gut feeling, and
Ooh, honey, yes.
follow that intuition. That's the one thing. I let my intuition dictate a lot of what I do now. I listen to my gut, because I actually believe it could be my higher self, or my spirit guides, or even God, trying to steer me in the right direction with just little, your gut intuition is kind of like, if something just doesn't feel right, don't, it probably isn't right.
Oh, that is such a wonderful thing. We do have a guest, and that is going to be the topic of her talk is trusting your gut. So thank
Yeah.
you for that. I
Yeah.
think that's so important. So many women second guess themselves and tell,
Right.
oh, I shouldn't think that. I shouldn't be like that. I shouldn't.
Right.
I don't know. They just talk themselves out of listening to themselves, and they
Right.
don't
We
trust
definitely need to be more discerning. And so that's what I would say to my 16-year-old self.
That's great. That's beautiful. I love it. Well, I want to give you the opportunity to make any closing comments that you might have on this topic, and then tell us where we can find more information about Dr. Marni.
Well, before we talk about me anymore, I want to say you are one amazing person, and I have followed you, and I think that everyone needs to tune in to your podcast, because you have such interesting guests and interesting topics. You allow them a platform to kind of share what they need to, but you're coming with a lot of your own experience and everything too, to add to the conversations. So I would say definitely tune in, and
Well,
I
thank
love,
you.
yeah, definitely. I would say check out my writing. I'm not, like I said, I'm not on social media, but I do have a website, which is the title of my award-winning spiritual fiction, which is God Came to My Garage Sale. And so www.godcametomygarage.com. At my
Okay.
website, you can read about the various books I've been involved in. I've been involved in a number of anthology books, but I'm very excited about my new 4-book series, True Deceit, False Love. And under the happenings section of my website, you can find out other interviews, book signings, speaking engagements that I'm involved in, but I also highlight other people and their work as well too. Lately, I've been highlighting some of the people that have endorsed my book, because they are amazing people that have made a difference in my life as well. I actually kind of reached out to them for guidance when I really needed it. And it's amazing the friendships and connections that you can make with other like-minded people that really understand what you're going through. So I would say check out True Deceit, False Love. The second book is a book of acrostic poetry. Again, a large volume. I have 13 poems for each letter of the alphabet. So it comes out to a lot, but they're very informative, but also kind of pull at your heartstrings. And it can be from anyone's point of view, from a mom, a dad, a child, from an abuser's point of view, from a victim's point of view. It can even be work related. So I've set up a lot of these poems from hearing so many other people's accounts, and I just wanted to have like a resource, something that people could pick up and might get some validation after reading some of these. And then the third book is a survivor's workbook. So people that might find themselves going through this for, and you don't have the money or the time to go, get some professional help, or the interest. Not everyone wants to go that route. You can only watch so many YouTube videos, and you can only read so many books, but a workbook can help you connect the dots to your own experience while you're going through the activities in the workbook.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Great idea. Well, thank you, Dr. Marni. I really enjoyed talking to you. I'm so happy that you're at a place of peace and, self-care now, and you look happy.
Yeah, I am.
You look great, girl. You look all tan and stuff.
Well, I don't try to get tan. This just happens when I'm out in the garden or I'm swimming in the ocean every day. So
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, you enjoy yourself. I'll be in touch real soon.
All right. Well, thank you, Deb.
You're welcome. All right, everybody. That was Dr. Marni Hill Foderaro. I hope you enjoyed her discussion. I will be putting the links to her website and the books down below in the show description page. So by the time this show goes live, those links will be there. And you can reach out to her if you have any questions about the information that she's presented today. I really am very much an advocate of paying attention to your gut feeling, ladies. Tuning in to the warning signs that you're going to see. Your body's going to give you a signal that this something here is not right. Please stop second guessing yourself. Tune in and pay attention and extricate yourself from these situations as soon as possible. And it just may save your life. This is Deb Cooper. I'll see you tomorrow with the next video.